It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, on top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
It's a very good evening, Zimbabwe. ZiFM Stereo is the station, my station, your station. It's ZiFM Sport, your sport, our sport, everybody's sport. And also, your opinion is very important. We're on social media at ZiFM Sport. Get in touch with us. Today's Hump Day, Wacky Wednesday, some call it. If you've had a bad day, well, this show is always here to energize you and give you the end to the day that you deserve. What can you look forward to that the team will deliver for you? That team being Mike Madoda, Sean Tafirenyika, and me, Barry Manandi. Well, on the home front, consultation meetings between the leadership of ZIFA affiliates and clubs set for Saturday will mark the beginning of ZIFA's constitutional review gatherings that will run up to the 19th of July. Some quarters saying that the constitutional process is unconstitutional. We'll hear the thoughts of the studio team. In international sports news, Australian tennis star Nick Kyrgios has taken aim at Novak Djokovic's stupidity after world number one contracted coronavirus at an exhibition tennis tournament in the Balkans.
And then we'll take you around the world in 60. Well, we'll take off in England, where the chief executive of World Rugby believes the sport can at last get to grips with the long-standing problem of a global calendar just days out from a seemingly key vote. In Italy, former Formula One Supremo Benny Ecclestone is concerned that Ferrari could hand Sebastian Vettel a raw deal in 2020 in favor of giving Charles Leclerc their full backing. And then we'll touch down in the United States of America, where 2020 Ryder Cup spokesperson says the US-Europe Golf Showdown remains scheduled for September in the wake of a British report saying the event could be postponed till 2021.
We'll dive into our play of the day, which is Wacky Wednesday, as we said at the top of the show. Then we go into the beautiful game. And in the Premier League, Tottenham manager Jose Mourinho has denied reports his relationship with midfielder Tungai Ndombele has broken down after failing to play him in either of their two games since the restart. In La Liga, Ivan Rakitic scored his first goal of the season to keep Barcelona's title hopes alive on a strange night at the Nou Camp. In Serie A, Antonio Conte acknowledges Inter have no room for errors as they aim to be a nuisance right until the end in the title race. And in the Bundesliga, Robert Lewandowski, who has won 8 Bundesliga titles, is the league's all-time leading foreign-born goal-getter. But the Bayern Munich icon believes the best period of his career is just around the corner. More on that in the beautiful game. It's Wacky Wednesday, everybody. Let's get to it. Here are the killers. This is My Own Soul's Warning.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
As we said, our social media handle, the big one is at ZiFM Sport. But you can also find us all on social media at Sean Tafirenyika, at Mike Madoda, at Barry Manandi, at Chris Midzi, at Alois Bunjira, at Mark Pozzo. That's the entire team. Get a hold of us. Let's chat. Let's talk about sport. And today we're talking about football administration as our top story. Now, consultation meetings between the leadership of ZIFA affiliates and clubs set for Saturday will mark the beginning of ZIFA's constitutional review gatherings that will run up to the 19th of July. ZIFA has invited its affiliates and stakeholders to meetings aimed at gathering views and information that will be used by the committee in its constitutional review mandate. The review is meant to align the ZIFA constitution with FIFA's guiding document. The principle and the desire of this process, very noble. Mike, your thoughts?
Well, Barry, I think I also share certain concerns around this because it looks like the same old names or the same people that, of course, form the pillars that uphold the current ZIFA organization and have held it up in years gone by are the people who are at the heart of this constitutional review. And so what new ideas can we expect? What new methods can we expect from this constitutional review? I don't think we're going to expect anything new. I don't think we're going to expect to hear fresh voices, new ideas coming out, mainly because, you know what, we're just simply pouring old wine into old wineskins. So the taste is going to remain essentially the same. Now, there's also a bit of controversy, Barry, around the participation of certain members that form up this review committee. And I think just for the purposes or the sake of our listeners who may not know, it's made up of Chairman Kelvin Mosimwa, Vice Chairman Stanley Chapeta, Martin Kweza, Highlanders Chairman Kenneth Mutlope, Simon Simango, Beulah Musara, Wilbert Simba, Gilbert Saika, and Mehluli Tebe. Now, one of the things, Barry, if you take a look, for example, at Simango, Simango is already a member of the disciplinary committee and therefore cannot sit on any other judicial body. And so already there's a conflict of interest there. And he's also just one of two legal minds who are involved in this process. And he, being a legal mind, you would have expected him to be the first one to raise his hand up and say, you know what, guys, there seems to be a problem here. That's why I was asking Barry, can we expect anything new out of these people? Because it looks like they're just going to carry on behaving in the old manner that we've come to expect from our football administrators. Because if a legal man cannot see a legal red flag that's right in front of him and he's part of the process, then we doubt the sincerity of the entire process.
Yeah, and then it makes you sort of think, Sean, that based on what Mike is saying, that there are various little anomalies. And in truth, when you pick up anomalies, sometimes they are the seed of something deeper and darker. That you then think to yourself, okay, is this a bona fide process, or is this a process for entrenchment of various elements of ZIFA, and also to bring in various other elements that will essentially keep those that have been part of the ZIFA administration for a long time in their positions for a much longer period?
Yeah, no, ZIFA has shown us time and time again that they are incapable of change. We seem to have the same cycle repeating over and over again. You know, those FIFA guiding principles are mainly hinged on three main pillars, which are democracy, transparency, and accountability. And there's no way that you can take those terms and associate them with ZIFA, because we've always had issues around our democratic process. We've always had issues around our transparency, where we never know what's really going on with deals. What happened to the Umbro deal? Nobody really knows anything about that. And when it comes to accountability, they don't ever take any accountability for their actions.
But what did you want to know, Sean? What did you want to know? The Umbro deal happened. We wore Umbro. The replicas were available. Whether they were exorbitant or not is another matter. But ostensibly, everything is fine. We did the Umbro deal. We are a very transparent organization.
No, there were so many questions that went unanswered. I remember every time I used to go to press conference, it was always, we'll get back to you with the final deal, with the details. Right now, we don't have that information. And just this shows you an organization which is always snaking its way around Yongo Jingiriza and not really accountable.
Well, one of the things, Barry, just to add on to what Sean is talking about in terms of accountability and transparency, that concerns me is that little is being done to educate everyone about this constitutional review. No one is doing anything to let people know, okay, these are in broad terms the issues that we think are important, because ZIFA as an organization right now should be coming out with a manifesto, as it were, of the things that are the areas of concern for them, the things that they want to see changed, the processes they want to start instituting, and the reform they want to see. Their reform agenda should be clearly enunciated. It should be expressed, and people should know exactly what they're doing. But what they're doing is that they're going about like a snake oil salesman, where everything is just, you know what, it is is so secretive, so no one knows. And then all of a sudden, we're going to be told that the constitutional review process is over, and then these are the things that are going to be implemented. Yet no one is really in the know as to what is truly happening. Can someone come out and tell us exactly what this constitutional review process is meant to achieve? What are the agendas that are on the table, so that people, when they come out, Barry, for these meetings, they're able to have done their research, they're able to come and speak knowledgeably about these issues, rather than these issues just being thrown at them when they arrive at the meetings. I remember you and I, Barry, I think we attended one, constitutional review process, and that was held at Queen Elizabeth School.
Yes, we did, yeah.
Which had all but 15 or 20 people. And you can't tell me that in the city of Harare, Barry, which is the heart of the nation, that only 20 people would be interested in the constitutional review process. It means that these people are just trying to shroud it in secrecy so that they can push through certain agendas which they know are not popular or may not be beneficial for the game, but rather benefit their own personal power bases.
But is it a we are in more say strategy, Michael?
No.
Surely constitutionalism is about the affiliates of ZIFA, the clubs, the women's and men's clubs.
It's not about
the academies and that.
We're not inviting, Barry, we're not inviting everyone. This is not a Bamba Zonke, let's all meet at the HICC and give the mic to everyone from tout to CEO. No, that's not the way that the process works. But I'm going to ask you, Barry, as the chairman of Golden Eagles Football Club, have you received an invitation letter from ZIFA or any communication that there is a review process that's happening?
Let me answer and say not yet.
And you see, that's the problem, because this is a story that's already hit mainstream media. This is a story that's already in the newspapers. So the fact that we are discussing it right here on ZiFM Sport, and you, the stakeholders, okay, you asked about stakeholders. The stakeholders are our football clubs. The stakeholders are the people that are involved in the game right now. If those people don't even know that this process is happening, or when it's happening and why it's happening, and have not been receiving invitations to come and participate, then who is proffering the ideas? Who is pushing forward the agenda reform? And like I keep saying, Barry, these reforms are going to come in and are not going to be for the benefit of the game. They're not going to be for the benefit of academies, football clubs, etc. They are going to be for the benefit of the individuals who want to show up their power base.
Doesn't that lead us to our next point, in the sense that a process like this, if run properly, can be beneficial to the game, Sean? Because when you think about it, we've had a sequence of a ZIFA leadership, administration after administration after administration. All of them have been blighted by one problem or the other. We all say that the Chiangwa administration was decent in the sense that they managed to keep the scoreboard ticking along, as it were, but it wasn't without controversy. So if successive individuals from different backgrounds, from different places, are having the same result, doesn't that point to a systemic problem? And a constitutional review like this is an opportunity to fix that system. Is this potentially an opportunity missed if we don't handle this correctly?
No, like it would be a massive opportunity missed, because structurally things can change if there's a good basis and there's a clear roadmap of what we're trying to achieve, what we're trying to put into the constitution for the betterment of the game. Maybe in Germany it wasn't so much as a constitutional review, but we saw how everyone then aligned to what they were trying to do with the game and the massive results it had leading up to the 2010 World Cup in South Africa, for them then achieving ultimate success in the 2014 World Cup. And that shows you a body that works, where everyone is aligned and they understand exactly what they have to do. In Zimbabwe then, that's when you, I think we've mentioned it on the show before, that we just have a severe lack of a resource knowledge base. We just have a lot of people who do not know what they are doing, and consequently our game is suffering, and we keep sliding and going down even further and further. I'm so afraid that we will be able to climb out of the massive hole that we're currently in.
The communications department, Barry, should have come out. We should be interviewing them on this show. They should be making themselves available on Star FM, at Power FM, at Classic FM on the Hill. They should be talking to the Herald. They should be putting up adverts in our newspapers. That's what they should be doing. They should be on ZBC TV News. They should be on ZTN, trying to educate people about the process instead of creeping up on people and trying to slip their agendas into the reform process. And that's the problem, Barry. That just shows you that their tactics are nefarious. And apart from them being nefarious, it just shows you, Barry, that they are trying to slip in things that they know will never pass if they do this process transparently.
You talked about the communications element, Mike. I'm going to stay with you and ask you. You talked about old wine in old, new wine in old wineskins. There was wine and there was skins. I can't remember what the order was.
Old wine in old wineskins.
But you talked about the wine and the skins. How would you structure this in very broad terms?
First of all, Barry, everything would have to start with clear and concise communication. You know, and I think a lot of people talk about, you know what, this is not a public process. And I understand it's not a public process. So it's not open to everyone. It's not open to the guy who's walking down the street. But that is where the communication must start. Because whilst it's not open to the guy that's walking down the street, the football administrator walks down the same street, feeds off the same news channels, reads the same newspapers, listens to the same radio shows. And so that is the first area you've got to start by communicating to people, Barry, letting them know that we have a process that's underway. What are we trying to achieve with this process? When is it happening? Who is it open to? How can you participate? etc. Those things, Barry, are important so that the people that feel themselves as, listen, we are stakeholders in the game, we've got a voice, we need to say something. People who feel that they've got the ideas that can contribute something to our game are then able to participate. It can't be this thing that's done just under the cover of darkness, as it were. So for me, that's the first thing that they'll need to do, Barry. And then having got there, to these constitutional review processes, which of course I think there's one that's going to be held at Prince Edward School, your old school, and absolutely, is to make sure, Barry, that the process is first of all smoothly run, and by that you've got to have someone who acts as the moderator. Now, the moderator is key. The person who chairs these things is key. That person has got to be neutral. That person has got to have no agenda, because we don't want information, or should I say opinion, stifled, because you know what, someone is trying to block the things that they don't want to hear. So sometimes you can be the committee, but it doesn't mean that you have to moderate the meeting.
Got you.
You see, yeah, you can bring in, for example, a Sean Tafirinyika and say, you know what, Sean Tafirinyika, you are a very clear communicator. You are a respected communicator. Can you come and help us moderate this meeting? Because what we're trying to do is to make sure that we collect as much information as possible. We're trying to give every voice a platform. We want to hear from as many of our stakeholders as is humanly possible. We're going to create the stage for them and make sure that you come in and moderate. So these things can be done, Barry, by someone who's acting in consultation with ZIFA to make sure that they get the best out of the process. And at the end of the day, it's also important that the information that they collect is then tallied and documented in the correct manner, so that people don't come to meetings, speak, but the voice is not actually...
But the decisions have already been made, and the agenda's already been drawn up. Yeah,
absolutely. So it's also important that, for me, Barry, we have seen internationally, whenever things of this nature are done, what happens? They're documented. So they're done in front of camera. So it might not be live, but it'll be good. Right now you can stream. You can stream on Facebook.
Stream, yeah.
Why not get your ZTNs to come in? Let them come in and stream. Why not get, people who can come in and do that job, so that you are accountable to the public? Yes, the public are not important in this process, or are not participants, but they're important because you've got to win them over to your cause to make the running of our football a lot smoother. So those are just some of the things in terms of accountability. Document the process, get it on video, get it on sound, get it documented properly, and then we'll start from there, so that when you make the decisions, it's based on information that you've received.
Well, it's not too late for some of those changes to be implemented that have been highlighted by Mike Madoda, because the first of the outreach meetings will be taking place on July the 4th, where Northern Region will accommodate the women's football, its affiliates and regional provinces. Then Northern Region will hold a second session for its Division 1 and Division 2 Harare Province, Mashonaland West Province, Mashonaland West Province, Northern Region Area Zone, NAF, NASH and Beach Soccer and Futsal, who will be split up. On July the 4th, Central Region will hold its meetings at Gweru ZRP main camp, featuring the Central Division 1 teams, as well as provincial teams from the Midlands and Matabeleland South area zones, NAF, NASH, Beach Soccer and Futsal, who will all attend those consultative meetings. Southern Region will hold theirs on 11th of July. The Women's Soccer League, their outreach meeting will be at Harare Gardens on July the 18th, while later that same day, the Premier Soccer League will congregate at Prince Edward School in the afternoon. The last episode of the consultative meetings is set for Prince Edward in Harare on the morning of July the 19th, and ZIFA has invited other stakeholders such as the Footballers Union of Zimbabwe, the media, sports medicine experts, Soccer Supporters Association, and Friends of the Warriors. The deadline for written submissions, if any, is July the 21st.
Hi, I'm Warriors coach Zdravko Logarušić, and you are listening to ZiFM Sport.
Sports with a difference.
Right, we've got some local sports news for you, starting with cricket, where Zimbabwe cricket chairperson Tavengwa Mukuhlani says that they are now in a strong position to try and take the game to the next level, despite enduring one of the toughest years in history. Mukuhlani said this while addressing the Zimbabwe Cricket annual meeting yesterday, which was held through an online platform for the first time. Looking ahead, with a huge debt now cleared, the Mukuhlani said Zimbabwe Cricket would be turning its full attention to the revival of club cricket and the re-establishment of a national academy. Apart from revitalizing first-class cricket in the country, a provincial women's competition is also on the cards. And we say congratulations to Zimbabwe Cricket, and may the good work long continue. We turn to athletics, where Bulawayo Athletics Board BAB chairperson Manuel Mpofu remains confident that the province will host the Technical Officials Education and Certification Systems TOEC's Level 1 course that was suspended following outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic. The international course was initially scheduled for April at White City Stadium. Objectives of the course are to provide participants with theoretical and practical training to make them competent to officiate at local, regional and international competitions held in their countries. We'll wrap it up with news coming out of the top tier of domestic football in the nation. That is the Castle Lager Premier Soccer League, where Highlanders coach Mark Harrison has assured restless fans that he is still committed to the Bulawayo Giants and will soon return to Zimbabwe once authorities give an all-clear signal. The Englishman returned to his homeland following the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic and the subsequent shutting down of sporting activities, which was taken so as to help flatten the curve. Soon after his departure, there were unverified reports on social media and other mainstream news agencies that the Bulawayo Giants were already in talks with the Turkish national as a possible replacement for Mark Harrison, who was said to be headed for Kenya.
Hi, this is Mike Madoda, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. From the front of the grid to the back of the net, it's ZiFM Sport. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play.
International sports news has got a tennis flavor this evening. An Australian tennis star, Nick Kyrgios, has taken aim at Novak Djokovic's, I quote, stupidity. This is Nick, not us, after the world number one contracted coronavirus at an exhibition tennis tournament in the Balkans. The final leg of the Adria Tour in Bosnia has been cancelled, and Djokovic yesterday apologized for hosting the bungled event, admitting he and organizers were, I quote, were wrong to push ahead during the pandemic. Djokovic, who was not showing any symptoms, joined fellow players Grigor Dimitrov, Borna Coric and Viktor Troicki in testing positive for COVID-19 during the second leg of the event, where social distancing was minimal and players embraced over the net. Kyrgios retweeted a video of players, including Djokovic, dancing shirtless in a nightclub, saying he sent prayers to the players who had contracted the virus. Well, Nick Kyrgios, always outspoken, Barry, never afraid to speak his mind. And you've got to say that, listen, if you take a look at the whole thing, that was the ADA Tour, despite the noble intentions and despite how much we praised the inception of a new tournament that could eventually grow to become one of the mainstays of the ATP Tour, Barry, you've got to say that the fact that it was played without any stringent health and safety protocols does make it stupid.
Yeah, it does. And I suppose it's a kettle calling the pot black, isn't it? Because Kyrgios himself is not without fault. But in truth, the man is right. There could have been a lot more done to ensure that the tournament was held in a safe environment. I know in his apology, old Nole says that he felt that the tournament passed and complied with all health protocols. But in truth, with players embracing over the net, we saw very few masks, we saw very little social distancing. So it didn't pass the smell test even. So in truth, there was a bit of recklessness, to use a diplomatic term, stupidity, to borrow Kyrgios' term.
Oh, well, let's just take a look at that Nole apology. He said, "Hi, everyone. We're back in Belgrade and I've tested positive for COVID-19 as well as Yelena." Yelena, of course, is his wife. The kids have tested negative. We will remain in self-isolation for the next 14 days and repeat the test in 5 days. I'm so deeply sorry our tournament has caused harm. Everything the organizers and I did the past month, we did with a pure heart and sincere intentions. We believe the tournament met all health protocols and the health of our region seemed in good condition to finally unite people for philanthropic reasons. We were wrong and it was too soon. I can't express enough how sorry I am for this and every case of infection. Now, Sean, surely his participation and his ability now to have a meaningful challenge at the US Open may be called into question.
Yeah, 100%. And the thing with Novak Djokovic is that he's always known for his mental fortitude. But in addition to that, he's also a person who's stubborn. Because even before he had arranged the Adria Tour, he was doing a barrage of Instagram lives trying to tell everybody that, everything is in place, they'll follow strict health protocols. And then this happens. So it's going to be a massive, massive hit to his reputation and his standing in the game. And what's even worse is those shirtless pictures of him in the nightclub. So probably wasn't even at the tennis court, where he contracts the virus, but being out in the club, and yet, you guys are organizing a tennis tournament. So it just, they were just very irresponsible. And now he was also claiming that it would be weird to have the US Open without fans, and he was one of the people who was against the US Open, and now this has happened, and he might not even get an opportunity to go out and get the title, yet he was in superb form. So I have to say that this was all his own doing, and he just has to suffer the consequences of his actions.
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. And for me, the point that Sean makes here is that the likelihood is that they probably got this virus from the social life, from the nightlife, as opposed to getting it on court whilst they were participating in the tournament. And that's the worrying thing. And it is a blow to his reputation because he's seen as one of the clean guys, one of the smarter guys on tour. And it's usually this sort of behavior that even corporates frown upon.
It is, especially at this time. It's very sensitive. Anything that you do is amplified strength 10, especially as it relates to the coronavirus. And the other one, obviously, which we are not discussing here, which is the race element. Those two features of our lives at the moment are very sensitive. So for me, I think that corporates are going to take a dim view of his petulance almost Look, if you want to look at it and analyze it and flip it 10 ways from Sunday, you can then make the justification that it's probably because, isolation and taking refuge in place like we've all been doing on lockdown sort of gives you that cabin fever and you want to just get out, let loose. And chances are he got that opportunity, but he did so at a time that was inappropriate.
Oh, I absolutely loved the use of the phrase taking a dim view, Barry. Reminded me of my Form 2 English teacher, Mrs. de Villiers.
Was it written on your report, Michael?
Oh. Now, I remember she once sanctioned the class, and that's one of the phrases she used, that I take a dim view. She was complaining to the headmaster, by the way, who was standing by the door, that she took a dim view to our antics.
And you see, Novak Djokovic was acting like a 14-year-old, just like you guys.
Absolutely.
Hi, this is Benjamin Locke. I'm on the Zimbabwe Davis Cup team, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
Let's start in England. The chief executive of World Rugby believes the sport can at last get to grips with the long-standing problem of a global calendar. Just days out from a seemingly key vote, Brett Gosper remains optimistic despite a frank exchange of views at a meeting of the World Rugby Professional Game Forum last week that broke up without an agreement. The sport had been in lockdown since March because of the coronavirus until New Zealand's in-house Super Rugby tournament started earlier this month. Over to Italy now. Former Formula One Supremo Bernie Ecclestone is concerned that Ferrari could hand Sebastian Vettel a raw deal in 2020 in favor of giving Charles Leclerc their full backing. Despite not a single race being run in 2020, Vettel and Ferrari announced last month that this year's championship will be their last together. The early announcement raised eyebrows with many in the paddock, given that the two still have to work together for a full, although shortened, season. Landing in the United States of America, a 2020 Ryder Cup spokesman says the US-Europe Golf Showdown remains scheduled for September in the wake of a British report saying the event would be postponed to 2021. The Guardian newspaper report said that confirmation of a postponement is expected next week for the biennial showdown, now set for Whistling Straits in Wisconsin on the 25th to the 27th of September. The ongoing coronavirus pandemic has made it unlikely that spectators would be allowed at the event in its current date, and travel restrictions due to the deadly disease could be an issue for fans traveling from Europe, even if a reduced number were allowed.
Hi, my name is Rudoni Shamba, Maitoria's Super Striker. You're listening to ZiFM Sports.
The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport. All the rivalry.
Here is Harry Kane for Tottenham. Oh, what a goal! A classic derby goal from Harry Kane. Catch him if you can.
All the stars.
Talk about impudence, talk about improvisation, talk about Sadio Mane.
And all the game-changing moments.
And Raheem Sterling rattles it home. And once more, City are in front in a trice.
All the updates from the Premier League on ZiFM Sport.
We're kicking off in England, where Tottenham manager Jose Mourinho has denied reports his relationship with midfielder Tanguy Ndombele has broken down after failing to pay him in either of their two games since the restart. The Portuguese boss insisted the player was simply not needed in the 2-0 win over West Ham, with the star also an unused substitute in the draw against Manchester United on Friday. The pair have had a frosty past, with Mourinho publicly criticising his performances on a number of occasions, and the £65 million Frenchman has been continually linked with moves away from the club. Now, from a broad perspective, Barry, it's pretty difficult to criticize Mourinho because in these 2 games, he's walked away with 4 points out of 6. Was unlucky, I think, against Manchester United to have conceded that penalty that brought United back into the game. So his methods are working, and even the criticism that he suffered from certain British pundits like Paul Merson around Harry Kane, he was also vindicated because Harry Kane was on the score sheet last night as well. So as it stands right now, his methods are working. So it's difficult to sort of like start the whole Tonga and Ndombele debate with Mourinho as long as it's working.
Yeah, the argument doesn't... Look, the scenario doesn't favor the argument because Tongi Ndombele ultimately is a squad player. It's a squad game and in truth wasn't required for this. Also, you add to that the 2 points that you've made, which are absolutely correct. I'm going to add to that the fact that he's collected those 4 points from 6 with 2 different ways of playing. Against Manchester United, he adopted his ultra-defensive, counter-attacking football. Against West Ham, he was a little more ambitious. He went forward a lot more. We saw, what's his name, the right-back, Cote d'Ivoire. Serge Aurier, bombing down there. We didn't see that against Man United. So, again, he's shown his versatility as well. So while it might be true that there's a problem with Ndombele, at the moment, it's inconvenient for us to have the discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And Sean, you take a look at Jose Mourinho. This was a welcome 3 points versus West Ham. Spurs have got, I think, remote chances of qualifying for the Champions League, and they will certainly want to be in the Europa League at a bare minimum.
Yeah, and I think right now the results are what matters most. But we know that Spurs also like to associate themselves with an attacking brand of football. So for this moment, for this period, this will work. You might be able to get them back into Europe, but on the long haul, if this is supposed to be then a continuation into next season, I don't see any good foundations there. Mourinho talked about how he had a time to reflect during his sabbatical when he was when he wasn't working, but he comes back and it's still the same old Mourinho, and there's still issues that are rearing their ugly head, and I'm just a bit concerned. I know even though it's Tottenham, but just looking purely at the football with Mourinho at the helm, I don't see them going very far we take a look at this Ndombele situation. Some people say that's always been Mourinho's style to publicly criticize his players. But is that a method that actually works? Because he's been talked about as a manager who's failing to really connect with this more Gen Z, millennial type of players. And that's largely the players that he's working with now. If you compare it to those old guys, those old veterans that he used to win championships with. So moving forward, I don't really know about Tottenham and Mourinho, but right now they might get the results they need. But on the long haul, I feel this could be putting them in dangerous territory.
Is it not about breaking the duck though, guys? Because Poch, we love him, Mauricio Pochettino. He did phenomenal at Tottenham Hotspur in terms of playing an attractive brand of football, but he didn't win them anything. And I think that the Spurs family had gotten to a place and has gotten to a place whereby they just want to hold some silver, guys. They just want to put something in the cabinet.
They do want to do that, Barry.
If there's somebody who can, it's Mourinho.
Well, Barry, I think that's on a historical level. If there's someone who can, it's Mourinho. But to be honest, I'm with Sean in that it doesn't seem to be moving in any particular direction. There is no progress that's been made right now. No one can talk of progress at Tottenham Hotspur. If anything, they look a poorer side than the side that he inherited under Pochettino. Yes, the wheels seemed to have come off under Pochettino, but I thought that was just a function of rust. I think after the Champions League final that they played in last time, they just needed to sort of like give him a refresh. Allow him to bring in 2 or 3 players, etc. And, because take a look at Eriksen now. Eriksen is beginning to rediscover himself, starting to work his way back into some sort of form at Inter Milan. It's not because he was a bad player, but I think he had just reached a point where, he was just a bit stale now. at Tottenham Hotspur.
Spurs, yeah, sure.
But with Mourinho, I'm struggling to see how a player like Ndombele, for example, and I know we can say, oh, you know what, he's got 4 points from 6, so we can't really harp on about the fact whether Ndombele on the bench is a problem. But a player like him has suddenly lost his passion, has suddenly lost his love for football. This guy was one of the best midfielders in European football. Okay, not an upcoming player. He was already recognized as one of the best central midfielders in Europe, putting in performance after performance in the Champions League against better opposition, dominating against better players. So the fact that all of a sudden now he finds himself on the periphery with Jose Mourinho, for me, it's a bit of a worry. And you also take a look at players like Toby Alderweireld, who is one of the best centre-backs, the most experienced centre-backs. He's on the bench. Mourinho is choosing to play the likes of Sanchez and Eric Dyer, a holding midfielder at the heart of defence. So that, for me, again,
Jan Vertonghen, another specialist centre-half there who's on the bench.
Absolutely. That, for me, then calls into question the tactical nous of Mourinho. And it's so true, Sean, when you talk about Mourinho has failed to connect with Generation Z. And that is true. That is true, because his methods worked with the likes of John Terry, Didier Drogba, players who were cut off that cloth, Frank Lampard. But when it comes to these guys, it's not the first time we're talking about Mourinho failing to connect with this generation. He had the same problems at Real Madrid, managed to cover it up by winning, a championship there. He had the same problems when he went to Manchester United, and he's now having the same problems at Tottenham Hotspur. So this may be a Mourinho problem.
But is this not what you get? Mourinho is Mr. Fix-It. He comes in.
He's not fixing it, Barry. He's not fixing it, and he's not winning any trophy. You see, that's the thing.
Here's the thing.
He's not winning any trophy, Baz.
The one thing that he comes in and does is that he'll deliver silverware. He did it at United. He went on and won the...
But he inherited, Barry, a side that Louis van Gaal had left, which was in the Champions League, which was on the up. The likes of Martial, the likes of Rashford. He was left a core of good players by Van Gaal, and he managed to do that. But what did he do, Barry? He inherited a side that was challenging in England, and he left them outside of the Champions League. Okay, never mind the fact that he won a couple of trophies when he was there in the first couple of seasons. Are you seeing any signs at Spurs that Spurs can challenge for a trophy? I'm seeing none.
To be honest, I'm not.
None. All right, guys, let's just give you, of course, the other results from last night. There was one match that was played, and it was a goalless draw between Leicester and Brighton. Brighton pulling clear of the relegation zone, and Leicester now, I think, may feel that they may be dragged into that race for Champions League football. They looked set to finish in third place, but now, if the other teams can win, it will put pressure on Leicester. The only advantage that they have, I think, is that Chelsea are playing Manchester City pretty soon, and that could mean that Chelsea will have to beat the champions in order to put real pressure on Leicester. Premier League matches on tonight: Wolves versus Bournemouth, Norwich versus Everton, Newcastle entertain Aston Villa at St James's Park, Manchester United versus Sheffield United. A race for European football. This one, never thought would ever say that about the Blades. And then Liverpool with a chance to get all 3 points at Anfield versus a very stubborn and resilient Crystal Palace.
Ivan Rakitic scored his first goal of the season to keep Barcelona's title hopes alive on a strange night at the Camp Nou. There were plenty of fireworks in the night sky over the stadium, but it had nothing to do with the football. Off the pitch, the city of Barcelona was celebrating the traditional June 24th Midsummer Festival with rockets and bangers. On the pitch, the title challenge was fizzing out like a damp sparkler. Do you agree, Michael?
Not quite, Barry, because I think this season the standard of football in the Spanish league hasn't been inspiring. It's not just about Barcelona, it's also the two Madrid sides that would be challengers, Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. You know, if people can talk about how poor this Barcelona side, and it is true, this is the poorest Barcelona side that I've seen in over a decade.
In a long time, yeah.
They're very bereft of ideas and are very one-dimensional, very predictable. If Lionel Messi doesn't sparkle, if Lionel Messi is not at his creative best or his lethal best, it means that Barcelona are going to struggle in the final third. And that's what we have seen. We saw it in the game against Sevilla, and we have seen it again in this game versus Athletic Bilbao. And it just took a fortuitous goal, in truth, for Barcelona to be able to score through Ivan Rakitic in this game. However, Barry, the very fact that Barcelona is equal on points with Real Madrid, the very fact that they are comfortably ahead of Atletico Madrid, just shows you that it's been a season of poor football in Spain from not just Barcelona, but from Real Madrid as well. Because Real Madrid, against this Barcelona side, they should be at least 10, 12 points ahead.
Easy.
Yeah.
And in truth, Sean, you tend to agree with what Mike is saying, that generally it's been a poor season. But in the dim light of day, you look across at Real Madrid and they are celebrating, partying, and saying that they're top of the league and with a good shout of winning the championship. But all these clubs have got to fix it. We're talking about Barcelona. How does Barcelona fix this?
Barcelona, I think, can actually ride the wave a little bit, because one thing especially on this show, we've accurately predicted is the teams that might cause Barcelona a problem. Against Sevilla, it turned out to be a draw. And yesterday we said it could be a tough match against the Athletic Club, and they end up scraping up a 1-0 win. And I think in their remaining schedule, the other team that they might have to worry about is probably Atletico Madrid and Villarreal. But then you take a look at Real Madrid and you look at their potential banana skins. They have a relatively easier run-in, but we know that they will probably drop points against an Alaves. They'll drop points against maybe Getafe, for example. So it's Real Madrid where I think you'd be more on shaky ground just based on their consistency and how they do against the relatively lesser teams. Whereas with Barcelona, they are putting those teams to the sword even as they are mediocre. So I still feel that there's so much more football to be played, and I think Barcelona can count on Real Madrid to slip up somewhere in the remaining games.
Yeah, and I think they just have to keep in touch. I think that's what Barcelona has got to do right now. Just make sure that they match Real Madrid win for win, because Real Madrid, like Sean pointed out, has got a propensity of dropping points against the lesser teams, the teams that you don't expect Real Madrid. In fact, this game, that's why people are still talking about the game versus Real Sociedad. Real Sociedad, yes, vastly improved side, but that's a game that Real Madrid should have dropped points, guys. Let's not take away the fact that VAR and the refereeing were influential in three decisions. That's too much. So will they get the rub of the green in every game here on out until the end of the season? I think not. Sooner or later, it will catch up and bite Real Madrid in the backside.
Indeed. Now, in other results, last night, Rayo Valladolid and Getafe played out a 1-1 draw. Levante beaten at home by Atletico Madrid 1-0. There are La Liga fixtures to look forward to tonight. Real Sociedad take on Celta Vigo at the Anoeta. Alaves versus Osasuna, while Real Madrid welcome Real Mallorca to the Alfredo Di Stefano Stadium.
Right, a couple of minutes to go until we'll wrap up the show, but enough time for us to give you a couple of updates. The first one coming out of Italy, where Antonio Conte acknowledges Internazionale have no room for error as they aim to be a nuisance right until the end in the Serie A title race. Defeats to Scudetto rivals Lazio and Juventus ahead of the season suspension in March dealt a significant blow to Inter's hopes of claiming the championships. The Nerazzurri won against Sampdoria on their return on Sunday, but are 9 points behind leaders and defending champions Juve, albeit with a game in hand. 6 points, Barry, and they've still got a hope because there's still quite a bit of the season left, and Inter may well play the role of spoiler at the very least to decide the title.
I'm going to say at the very least, but I'm going to add to that the fact that probably only. They're a nuisance factor, he's quite right. And the role of spoiler is what they will do. I think this is a 2-horse race. I think Juventus and Lazio are going to battle it out for the Scudetto. And then Inter obviously playing the role of spoiler here and there. So I think Antonio Conte has got the right idea. He brought in the right talent. He's got the right mix. Now what he needs is the experience factor. So players who've come in are now going to be experienced with Serie A going into the new season, and I think we'll see Inter beginning to knock on the door as of next season.
All right, last night's results in Italy. Napoli building on that Coppa Italia victory over Juventus with a 2-0 win versus Verona in their return to Serie A action. In other results, Cagliari beat Spal 1-0 away. Torino were victorious at home 1-0 versus Udinese. And Parma putting Genoa 4-1 to the sword on the road. Serie A fixtures tonight. Atalanta entertain Lazio at the Pentagordi. Roma versus Sampdoria in the Eternal City. And Inter will host Sassuolo at the San Siro. And then in German news, Robert Lewandowski, he has won 8 Bundesliga titles. He's the league's all-time leading foreign-born goal-getter. But the Bayern Munich icon believes the best period of my career is just around the corner. Former Germany international Dieter Müller described Robert Lewandowski as the best striker in the world. Do you agree, Sean?
I agree that he's the best striker in the world, and he was talking about how he might not break Gerd Muller's record, but if you look at this Hansi Flick side, and if Lewandowski stays and they have a full season, Lewandowski can get 40 goals easy this season. Book it.
Easy, Sean.
Yeah, book it. I said it.
He says, book it, I said it. Well, Gerd Müller, the man known as the Bomber, scored 40 goals in the 1971-1972 Bundesliga season. That is the target for Robert Lewandowski. Sean says it's attainable, possibly next season. Well, we'll be here next season and even beyond, and possibly back tomorrow at 6 o'clock to give you the shortened version of the show.
May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Menandi, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, on top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.